Let's go.
Hey, check it out, it's Batman alive.
Sean Penn stars as a tough kid sent to a tougher prison in Bad Boys, which is one of 8 overlooked movies that we recommend you rent on video cassette. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. Now, by popular demand, we're doing one more of these shows. We're reviewing 8 more films that we liked that weren't big hits at the box office, but now that they've been released on video cassette, we're recommending that you might want to rent them. That is not as much fun as seeing them in a movie theater, to be sure, but no one is showing them in a movie theater anymore. So here we go with Roger's first choice. And by the way, these are our individual choices. We may or may not agree that they're both worth seeing.
My first overlooked video is named Modern Romance, and this was the second movie by Albert Brooks, whose Lost in America was one of the funniest movies of last year. Modern Romance was not successful at the box office. In fact, it practically completely disappeared at the box office, which is the nice thing about videos. It gives a movie one more chance, and I think this one deserves another chance. It was written and directed by Brooks, who also stars in it as a star-crossed lover who is burdened by an intelligence that makes it almost impossible for him to accept romance because he sees right through it. He's just too smart for love. Here's my favorite scene from the movie between Brooks and Katherine Harold.
I mean, I just think it's over.
Okay, it's over again.
No, not again. This is it. This is the last time. It's for real.
And you don't love me?
I do love you. I mean, love has nothing to do with this. Yes, I love you. I mean, that makes it very confusing, but I just don't think... I mean, you've heard of a no-win situation, haven't you?
No.
No? Really, no? You've never heard of one? Vietnam? This? I'm telling you, they're around. I think we're in one of them. I don't know, Mary. I don't know what to say. I'm trying to... I'm not doing well at it here.
No, I think you've already said it. Okay. So what do you want to do this time?
Well, it's not this time. This is it. This is the last time. I mean, I don't want to go through this any more than you do, and I think that this is... I mean, look, we're both free and clear, and that's the only time, I think, to do something like this, because God knows I don't want other people coming in here. I'm not... It would kill me. I'm sure it would be hurtful to you, so I think now that we are both free and clear, aren't we?
Fine. Right. You're right. This is a good time.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, what do you mean, good time? I didn't say good time. This isn't good. I didn't use that word. Maybe we're not free and clear if you think it's good. Are you seeing somebody else? Damn it, I'm psychic. I knew it. I hate the word paranoid, but it applies here. You're seeing somebody, aren't you?
This is lovely because, you know, in other words, I want you to go as long as you don't want to go. If you want to go, I don't want you to go. And meanwhile, I don't want to be committed, except I don't want to not be committed. It's fabulous. Albert Brooks is one of those talents like Woody Allen, whose films begin with his personality, and then they explore the comic ways in which that personality makes conventional happiness almost impossible. It's like he's always saying, I could be really happy if only I didn't understand the basic futility of the universe so well.
Now, that is one of the opening scenes of the film, and it is absolutely hilarious. I didn't think the rest of the film held up as well as Real Life, his first film, which I think is spectacular, and we'll put that on a show one day.
Okay.
Or this last one that he did, that Lost in America, that's so funny. It's funny. My problem is sometimes his selection of co-stars I don't think is so great. Katherine Harold, I didn't like that much.
We've been around and around about Katherine Harold. She's one of my favorite actresses. But another thing that I'll point out in this movie, it has another one of Albert Brooks' great phone calls in it. And every one of his movies has a long phone call, and he's the master, the best telephone artist since Bob Newhart, I think.
Okay. My first pick this week is a wonderful film made in England. I'm both surprised and delighted that it's been placed in cassette form. It's Jerzy Skolimowski's Moonlighting. My choice is the best film in 1982, a political-edged thriller about a bunch of Polish laborers brought to London as cheap labor to help restore a wealthy Pole's home. Jeremy Irons plays the foreman of the crew. They're very short on money, and so Irons begins stealing food at the local grocery store. Here, he's about to be caught.
Well, you are a regular customer, sir. My supervisors noticed you quite often. You don't spend a great deal, but you do come in a lot. Live nearby, don't you?
Yes.
Yet you always use your bike when you come in.
What did you want to ask me?
Just how you enjoyed your friend's turkey, sir.
You can see that Jeremy Irons is terrified there, and he is a stranger in a strange land. And just like that scene, the whole of this movie is tension-filled and asks tough questions. Should these people be entitled to food? What's it like to be a foreigner in a strange land? This is a gut-grabbing and brain-grabbing movie, one of the finest films I've seen this decade.
The story behind the movie is terrific because Skolimowski started making it within a few days after Solidarity was crushed in Poland. And it's interesting because the Irons character is kind of the party level if it were back in Poland. Then there are the laborers. And so he's kind of telling them what to do, what not to do, what they can know, what they can't know. And it's interesting as a story. We're interested in the fact that they're building that house, and at the same time, it's a political parable.
I ran into Jerzy Skolimowski. I asked him, could I please visit the house that was built during this movie? He's given me the address. The next time in London, I'm going to it. To me, that house is a shrine because this movie is so spectacular. I'll let you have...
I'd like to have a picture of you there on your knees in front of it.
I'll do it.
Next at the movies, Francis Coppola directed and Gene Hackman starred in a great movie that most people have never even heard of.
I know you heard this 1,000 times, Harry, but let me say it again. Here's to Harry, the best, bar none. I'll drink to that.
My next choice of a commercially unsuccessful movie that is now available on cassette, and I think it's worth renting, is Francis Coppola's wildly underrated The Conversation, a 1974 picture about a great wiretapper played by Gene Hackman, who's been doing his job and doing it brilliantly for years until he realizes that he's a stooge, actually, for other people's often nefarious plans. Early in the film, he and the late great actor John Cazale, Fredo from The Godfather, listened to a recording they're making of a young couple in a San Francisco park.
Pay attention to your recordings. Coming in loud and clear.
Look, boy, do you see him? The man with the hearing aid, like Charles.
Where?
Right there with the shopping bag.
Well, that's it for Paul. I spotted him.
Give me the phones.
He's been following us all around us, following us close.
It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Spending too much time together here.
No, that's just a minute.
That's a brilliant scene, and it reflects what's so good in this movie. It plays as absolutely real. Hackman's performance is his best of all time. I think it's as good as his one in The French Connection. Better, maybe. And he is playing here an emotionally burnt-out case, and we feel very sad for him. And the film displays in all of its treachery the absolute horror of invading another person's thoughts and conversations. How dare they listen into this innocent couple? This is a great movie, and I just want to credit one more person who worked on it, the sound engineer, Walter Murch. A brilliant job, and sound engineering in this film is key to what makes it work so well.
And of course, you said, how dare they eavesdrop on this innocent couple, but of course, one of the mysteries is whether or not they were
That is correct.
We think they are. The nice thing about this movie is that, like The Jagged Edge, which was not nearly as good a movie as The Conversation.
Not at all.
It takes the hero and puts him in a position at the beginning where he thinks that he's running things, just as the lawyer in Jagged Edge, she thinks she's running things, and then finds out that things are happening that are totally outside of their control, and they don't have any idea by the end of what's right, what's wrong, who they can trust, who they can't trust. And following Hackman, as he gradually just goes absolutely paranoid with fear,
That's correct.
is fascinating.
Roger, I saw this after I had just returned from a trip to Russia in January of 1974. And you know, on occasion, I'm told eavesdropping is done in Russia. When I saw this film, I had such a reaction of the sanctity of not listening in on other people and not invading other people. This film chilled me to the bone. It's 12 years now, okay? I still remember that
It's
feeling.
a great movie to look at on video because it's so complicated that you have this tendency to want to stop, reverse, and look at something again to see if you really heard what you thought you heard. My next overlooked movie on video, a movie I think you might like to rent, is called Bad Boys, and it's a 1983 film that starred Sean Penn as the leader of a Chicago street gang who gets locked into a blood feud with the leader of a rival gang, a Latino gang, and this feud continues after they're both locked up in the same juvenile prison. On this scene, Penn has accidentally killed his enemy's brother in a street shooting, and the enemy has retaliated by raping Penn's girlfriend, played by Ali Sheedy. The strength of Bad Boys is in the great dramatic scenes between Sean Penn and his mother, his sister, his fellow gang members, and his girlfriend there. I think the movie grows predictable at the end when everything is going to be settled by a big fight. This is the ubiquitous influence of Rocky. I am so tired of movies that end with a big fight or the big game. But if you want to see why so many people think that Sean Penn is one of the great actors of his generation, it's real obvious in the first 90 minutes of Bad Boys.
I think that's good criticism. I didn't like the film as much as you did because I thought it was so predictable in the way it would turn out.
At the end.
But his performance is wonderful. Coming up next at the movies, the European version of a film that was badly chopped when it was shown here on American TV.
Gary Gilmore, are you in fact at this moment ready to accept execution?
Not at this moment.
On this special edition of At the Movies, we're talking about overlooked movies that we recommend you rent on video cassette. They're just as good the second time around, especially if you didn't see them the first time around. And my next choice is Choose Me, an offbeat, totally original movie by Alan Rudolph, who seems to be making a modern version of one of those 1940s melodramas, all filled with neon lights and wet streets and broken dreams. In this scene, a saloon owner, played by Leslie Ann Warren, grows so desperate about her love life that she calls up a radio sex therapist played by Geneviève Bujold.
I don't know. Maybe I should have given in to a few things.
You mean sexual things?
There she goes again.
Sex? Are you kidding? I wrote the book on sex. I'm a prisoner of it. Hell, I'm a victim of it. I know all about that feeling you get in your belly when a man says he wants you. Even if I know he's lying, I still get that feeling. I'm conditioned now.
I understand, Karen.
Do you? Well, then what do I do, if you understand? I mean, what in the hell should I be doing?
Well, I'm not sure that I know what you're after.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm not sure that you can do things like that on the spur of the moment.
You mean fall for some guy? Or resist him?
Giving in. No, giving in. Either to him or to yourself. And yet there's something so thrilling about giving in, don't you think, Karen?
Geneviève Bujold has the greatest voice in the movies. Later in the film...
I said that before you did. I'm not going to let you get away with that.
No, you just said it, but that's okay because I agreed with it, and I thought that since it was my turn to talk, I would say it because every once in a while you're right, and I like to learn from you. Later in the film, both women will be involved with the same man, played by Keith Carradine, but Choose Me is not a love triangle. It's nowhere near that simple, and eventually we realize that the plot is folding in upon itself and showing how all of the characters in this movie are doomed to be trapped in each other's lives, which is sort of what the great 1940s backstreet melodramas were really about. Plus, wouldn't you agree that Genevieve's voice is really terrific in that scene?
I said that to you while the clip was playing.
That's
you
okay.
stole that from me.
Quite all right.
You
I'm
stole
happy
it.
to see you.
You're a thief.
Occasionally have a great insight like
You're
that.
a thief. I'll only say this. I think the film would have been better if it just concentrated on the two women characters and had gone less on the men. It's still a good film.
Don't you think it would have been better if Genevieve had talked more?
All throughout the whole film. My next choice is the European version of The Executioner's Song, a film that I think is almost as powerful as the extraordinary Norman Mailer novel upon which it is based, and that's a big compliment. Telling the story of the hideous mass killer Gary Gilmore and his girlfriend, Nicole Baker. Tommy Lee Jones plays Gilmore, and we get a taste of his humanity and his cunning as he courts Nicole, played by Rosanna Arquette.
We were hitchhiking home to Provo, and there were no cars. And then a man comes walking down the road out of nowhere, and he said, "Here, my wife fixed a lunch, but it's more than I can eat." And Mom said, "Well, I'd be really grateful." Then we were so hungry, we just started eating. And when I finally looked up to thank that man, he was gone. Right out in the desert, on a long, flat stretch. I didn't know it, but that man was my guardian angel. And I lost him a long time ago. When you came in here tonight, I said to myself, boy, you got your guardian angel back.
Ever wonder why women choose bad guys, and I guess vice versa? I think that scene holds a little bit of a clue. Often the victim is starved for compliments or security. The film has all of that, plus it captures the state of Utah, the wide open spaces, the glorious spaces, some of the boredom. And I think it does so, I believe, without making Gary Gilmore a hero. Again, make sure you rent the European theatrical version, which is over 2 hours, not the shorter American TV version.
This is one I really agree with you on. I think The Executioner's Song is one of the great lost American movies of recent years because, although presumably millions of people did see it when it played on TV, they never saw this version that we were lucky enough to see, the full-length movie version with a lot of scenes in there, especially involving Rosanna Arquette and some of the best work she's ever done in a movie.
This challenge you to, you see this guy and you'll wonder, because you're not sure about this guy, and then the other question is, should he be killed?
Yeah.
Terrific film.
It's a real good film. Next at the movies, a man spends a year in the Alaskan wilderness learning a little bit about wolves while they learn a whole lot about him.
Boredom, that's what's wrong. How do you beat boredom, Tyler? Adventure.
My last choice is a family film called Never Cry Wolf, a beautiful story, almost on the level of The Black Stallion. This one about a young man, a biologist, dumped into the Alaskan wilderness to learn about wolves. He gets to meet them and other animals up close. I just like scenes where nature overwhelms man, because baby, that's the way it is, and I just like to see it on film. I fall for that every time. The wide open spaces of John Ford's westerns. No dialogue needed for that scene. Charles Martin Smith, the actor there, sure grown up from American Graffiti. He is quite an actor. Director Carol Ballard captures the magic of nature and man's relationship to other animals silently and memorably. And it's a terrific film.
I think it's great, too. I loved it, and I love that scene, and I don't know how they shot that scene, and I don't want to know how they shot that scene. If I ever meet Charlie Martin Smith, I'm not going to ask him how they did that. My next movie that you should consider renting on video is on my list of the 10 greatest movies of all time, and it's just recently been released on video for the very first time. It's named AGUIRRE, The Wrath of God, and it was directed by the brilliant West German director Werner Herzog, who specializes in telling bizarre stories in impossible locations. This movie was shot in 1971 in the heart of the Peruvian rainforest, and it stars Klaus Kinski as a member of Pizarro's doomed Spanish expedition to find El Dorado. Herzog is a believer in what he calls the voodoo of locations, the feeling that if you film in real places, the spirit of those places can be felt in the film. AGUIRRE gets more amazing as it goes along until its great final scenes where Kinski, insisting on his suicidal mission, goes mad on a raft where his only companions are dozens of chattering monkeys.
Wenn wir das Meer erreichen, werden wir ein größeres Schiff bauen und damit nach Norden segeln und Trinidad der spanischen Krone entreißen. Von da aus werden wir weiter segeln und Cortés Mexiko wegnehmen. Was für ein großer Verrat wird das sein? Dann werden wir ganz Neuspanien in der Hand haben. Und wir werden Geschichte inszenieren, wie andere Stücke auf dem Theater.
The movie makes you think about the thin line between compulsive ambition and insanity, and it certainly is dramatically illustrated in that scene. It's Kinski's best performance.
I think, again, I just said, nature overwhelming man. That's what this film is about. Here's a guy trying to overwhelm nature, and nature is fighting back in its passive way, and the battle is spectacular and elemental. A terrific choice.
That's right.
Now, we'll review Here are my picks of the films that I'd like you to rent. Moonlighting, the thriller about the Polish men building a house. Also, Gene Hackman, so brilliant as the burned-out wiretapper in The Conversation. Also, the European version, not the TV version of the Executioner's Song. And finally, for me, a terrific family film, Never Cry Wolf, a story about a man and a wolf and how the man grows up.
Okay, my 4 overlooked videos were Modern Romance with Albert Brooks busy talking himself out of happiness, Bad Boys starring Sean Penn as a tough, bitter street gang leader, Choose Me, a modern film noir about a bartender, a sex therapist, and a drifter, and Aguirre, the Wrath of God, about a doomed expedition to find El Dorado. If you saw those 8 movies,
you saw a lot of good
I think you'd have a good week.
I want to make 2 points.
Okay.
A lot of the films were in the 70s. The 70s were a better time for movies. Number 2, I tried to get A New Leaf as one of my picks, because we're going to do more of these shows, okay? And A New Leaf, I'm told, with Elaine May and Walter Matthau, isn't available. Somebody buy A New Leaf, put it on video, I'll recommend it.
Good thinking. That's it for this week. Next week, our regular formatted reviews of 4 new movies, including Goldie Hawn as a boys' high school football coach in Wildcats, and Daryl Hannah, the mermaid in Splash, as a prehistoric cave woman in Clan of the Cave Bear. And until then, we'll see you at the movies.
Raisinets and Goobers are playing everywhere, starring plump, juicy raisins and great golden peanuts. Both now feature creamy Nestle milk chocolate. The exclusive Maytag full-size stacked washer and dryer with computer touch controls fits almost anywhere. It's from Maytag, the dependability people. 1 bowl of Total, 100% of a day's worth of 9 vitamins and iron made from 100% whole grain wheat. Total 1 bowl, 100%. Clips of Moonlighting courtesy of MCA Home Video.